Know the outcome and you'll see the journey.
A new world order.
This whole conspiracy to enslave humanity is a psychological game. You're not going to sell a tyranny by telling people it's a tyranny. The outcome is that they want to connect the human brain to artificial intelligence, so artificial intelligence becomes human consciousness.
All roads lead to hell here, David.
They do, but if you think they lead to heaven, you're gonna take that road. Freedom to speak means freedom to say things the authorities don't want people to hear. I will not be shut up. Yes, they'll silence me, they can ban me from Australia. They ain't gonna stop me saying what I believe is right.
Are you anti-Semitic?
And we saw this 30 years ago on The Wogan Show. You spoke your truth.
They're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you. Fine.
You're never finished in life until you admit that to yourself. Never. You get the carrot if you conform to the herd. You get the stick if you don't. I've taken the stick for 30 years, and I can tell you, it don't hurt. Unless you choose to believe it does.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go? This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is...
Hi, it's Brian Rose from London Real. You probably know that we've just recently been re-platformed on YouTube after 25 months completely in the dark. The truth is, I really need your help. What I really need you to do is click on that subscribe button right now, like this video, and maybe even leave a comment or share the link with friends. We're really fighting against an algorithm that's tried to keep us quiet for so long, and the more subscribers we have, the more people watch our content, the better guests we can bring you, the better content, and we can continue transforming lives. We've been doing this for 14 years now. I want to do this for another 14 years, but I really need your help. So click on that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, share this, and we're going to continue to bring you more and more great content. Thank you.
Let's face it, David Icke is a legend. Now, you might know him as a professional conspiracy theorist, but I know him as a guy who's trying to get all of us to wake up, to free our mind, to embrace who we are and what we really feel like doing. Not what the government tells us to do or the media tells us to do or mom and dad tells us what to do, but what we really feel in our own consciousness. And that's what I love about David. He came to talk about his brand new movie called Renegade, about his life story, about his recent ban from the continent of Australia because of what he talks about. People that paid tickets to hear him speak. I also asked him point blank if he was anti-Semitic or racist. We talked about this. We talked about reptiles, the banking industry, climate change, you name it. It's a fantastic episode. Make sure you watch the end because you'll be surprised at some of the things we cover. But I know you'll enjoy, again, David Icke, and he's also got a new book coming out. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is David Icke, the English writer and public speaker, known since the 1990s as a professional conspiracy theorist, calling yourself a full-time investigator into who and what is really controlling the world. As a former footballer, BBC Sports television presenter, and spokesman for the Green Party, your interview on Terry Wogan's show in '91 turned you from a respected household name into a laughingstock across the country. Now, you're the author of over 20 books and over 10 DVDs, have lectured in over 25 countries, speaking live for up to 10 hours to huge audiences, filling stadiums like Wembley Arena. Your new movie, Renegade, is the first ever feature film about your life and work. David, welcome back to London Real.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Fantastic to have you back. Tell me about this movie. Why now? And what was the purpose of making a movie about your life and your work?
Well, it came out of nowhere. It wasn't that you sat around a table and said we ought to make a movie. I'm just getting on with my life, doing what I normally do. And then this offer came from America to make a movie about my life. And we shot it in about 4 countries. And yeah, it's about my life. But like everything that I do, I want the information out there, the stuff that I've been uncovering and communicating. So the central theme is, yeah, this is David Icke's life, but it's packed with information that will stimulate a lot of new people, I hope, who watch the movie. Oh, what's all this about? They'll watch a movie, they wouldn't come to a talk or read a book. It will stimulate their interest in, actually, the world's probably not like we thought it was. You know, it goes into the nature of reality, it goes into the whole, global political, economic conspiracy. And I was very pleased with it. I had nothing to do with the editing of it. I just saw it when it was finished. But it was kind of put together by in the end, by people that were quite new to the information. And that was good because it was edited in a way that's very accessible to people who are new to this, as well as, people who know all about it. It's also, got lots for them as well.
Yeah, I'm really glad you did that, and it shows, because sometimes when people edit their own work, it's like an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And you miss that people don't know the backstory. They're new to these concepts as well. But it feels to me like the world is aching for this information, and they're looking for answers to all these problems in the world. Are you feeling that more than ever?
Oh, big time. You see, I started a world speaking tour, which is kind of ongoing, in 2016, and I did it for a specific reason. That reason. I was looking around and observing people and observing events, and it was very clear that although there was not, this vast number of people that were saying, oh, there's a conspiracy or whatever, they were uncomfortable about the world. They were uncomfortable about what was happening. They couldn't articulate why they were uncomfortable, but they didn't like it. They felt uneasy about it. And so I started out on this speaking tour to basically say to those people, this is why you're feeling uneasy, because this is why these events are happening. They're not random, they're happening by actually long-planned design. And when people hear another explanation of the world, which instead of presenting the world as a series of random dots, but actually connects them and says that's happening because of that, and that's happening because of that, and that's connected to that, and that's connected to that, and this is where they're all leading us, it's extraordinary to see the lights go on, and people go, and actually this makes far more sense than what I've got from the mainstream media. So it is a time of great challenge, because this thing is moving, not least into the technological level of control. But, there's such a difference between what you see in the mainstream, what you see coming from people who dominate the microphones, and what you get when you talk to people in the general population. That they do not see the life the same way. And so although if you only watch the mainstream media, everything seems so bad, and oh my goodness, look where the world's going. Away from the cameras and away from the microphones, there is a vast awakening going on. There absolutely is. Not, that people just awaken to it all, but this awakening of being open to other explanations that they weren't open to before. And I've been a kind of barometer of this, because over the last 30 years, I've seen the whole thing unfold. When I started out, of course, I had mass ridicule, but also mass lack of interest You talk to a handful of people, you talk in people's front rooms. The interest was that small. But not now. There has been and it's an unfolding transformation in people's openness to look at life from a different angle. Not least because the more they observe the real world that they're told to believe in, the less sense it makes, the more ridiculous it is. So there has to be other explanations, and people are more open to them. So there is a psychological revolution going on, which is not obvious if you only watch the mainstream media, but it's happening. I've never seen anything like it. And it's not just the numbers, it's the kind of people. System people who not long ago you'd think they'll never look at this. They'll be system thinkers all their lives, and suddenly they're not. Suddenly they are questioning and looking at life from a different angle. So there's much to be positive about, as well as much to be concerned about, because this is moving fast now.
Is that an intuition, something inside of them that just says, wait a second, something's not right here? And does that give you optimism for the human race when you see people showing up?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, something's not right here. It basically sums up what I've been describing. It's they look at the world and they're uneasy about it. There's something not right here. I don't like the way this is going. Because, of course, what they're seeing now more and more is their ability even to express themselves being censored. They're seeing the censorship reaching outrageous levels now. And that will obviously make them feel uneasy. They are experiencing political correctness, which is just a massive form of censorship. Political correctness is very simple. It's manipulating the target population to silence itself. And so you've got, again, this people on the microphones and the general population chasm of difference can be seen with political correctness. You listen to the microphone people in the mainstream, and political correctness is a good thing. Oh, yes, you can't say this, you can't say that. Oh, no, that'd be outrageous to say that. You talk to the general population, they're going, this is mad. This is crazy. I tell you what, I saw a video yesterday, actually. I put on my website, which kind of captured this. This guy in America, he's looked at the fact that they're now having, there's only one word for it, segregation between blacks and whites in reverse, as it was before. It was outrageous before, and reverse discrimination is equally outrageous. Racism is racism. It doesn't matter what race it is, it's racism. But anyway, and they're having segregated graduation ceremonies, segregated housing on campus. So he goes onto campus and he interviews white students. And he asks them what they think about it. And they say, oh, it's a good thing. Oh, it's absolutely right. Yeah, so yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, so, yeah, we should have that. Then he goes out in the general population and he interviews black members of the public and asks them the same question. What do you think about this segregation? And they're going, well, it's segregation, isn't it? It's what we had. We don't want that. It's ridiculous. So you had this situation where the political correct mindset on campus was saying segregation is okay. I don't think it is, whatever form it takes. And the people that's supposed to be benefiting from the segregation in the general population saying, well, this is crazy. Because there is this massive, it is a chasm that's opened up between what is termed the progressive mindset. I think it's anything but progressive. I think it's regressive, which is obsessed with political correctness and self-identity and identity politics. And the general population of all colours and creeds who are looking on, who don't have the microphones and don't get in front of the cameras except rarely, going, this is crazy, man. This is, what's happening? What do you mean you can't say this, you can't say that? That's crazy. And it's that group of people, the great majority among the public, who are open now to looking at the world in a different way, because they're open to explanations of why the world is becoming so utterly insane.
And why did it become that way? How come we've come into this politically correct society? And why is everybody very busy being offended all the time?
Right. We've got 5 hours, have we? Right. Because there is a process here. When you sweep away the layers of propaganda and the way things are presented, you start to see the connections and you start to see where it's going. I have this phrase that I use in the talks and one or two of the books. Know the outcome and you'll see the journey. What I mean by that is if you don't know the outcome, where the world is being taken and why, but certainly where, then daily events appear to be random. This event happens, that event happens, that event happens, and there appears to be no pattern to them because, well, they're just random events, they just happen. But when you know what the outcome is designed to be, the random events now take on a very different interpretation. Because now you see that these apparently random events are stepping stones to that outcome. So what is the outcome in terms of political correctness and censorship? The plan is that eventually no one will see or hear anything that the authorities don't want you to see and hear. That's the outcome they're going towards. And so the censorship is squeezing and squeezing and squeezing free thought, free opinion, free speech. You're seeing it all the time. And one of the most important things, and this was all planned, I'll talk about all this forever as well, was to move where people get their information from away from newspapers and traditional media onto the internet. And now people get the vast majority of their information from the internet. Now,
which is independent.
Yeah, of course it is. And the key reason for that is once it's on the internet, algorithms can start dictating what you see and hear. You know, they can't in a newspaper. You know, there's censorship in newspapers, of course, but at least it's there to be seen and debated. You know, why is this not in the paper? But what we're getting now is algorithms that are censoring what can be seen and heard, even once the codes are in, without human input. So,
okay, but those same algorithms at YouTube make you one of our more popular guests and put these ideas out there. Is that a loop they haven't closed yet?
Yeah, but they're closing it. I mean, you know,
the illusion of free speech.
A lot of my videos are being taken down, and it's, you know, you're subject to this thing called shadow banning, where you post something, but it's not seen by anything like the number of people who would normally see it. Right. So all this is moving towards that point they're aiming for, where you don't see anything or hear anything that the authorities have not basically approved. And this is where political correctness and the destruction of free speech comes in. It's all part of the same thing. What you've got with political correctness is the population being manipulated to silence itself. So the more and more people they can persuade and encourage to be upset and offended and have a sense of victimhood, the more excuses they have to say, no, we're stopping that because it's offending people. That's offensive. You watch, the censorship has expanded in the same speed on this part of the censorship as people being offended has expanded, because they have more and more excuses to censor because you mustn't offend anybody.
And there is a rapid growth in people being offended, right?
Absolutely. And because the more people that are offended, the more excuses you have to censor because they're offended. And then you come to freedom of speech, which political correctness is all part of the process of destroying. What is free speech? It's the freedom to speak, stating the obvious, but sometimes you have to. freedom to speak means freedom to say things the authorities don't want people to hear and see. So while free speech exists, this end goal of people only seeing and hearing what the authorities approve is impossible, because freedom of speech will always stop it happening. So this is why free speech is being targeted so fiercely, because until that's gone, they can't reach their goal. And if you look at the world and current events, just from this one perspective, that's the goal of complete control of information, then the stepping stones towards that can be very clearly seen in the vastly increasing levels of censorship.
Is it happening faster than you thought it would? Because there seems to be a massive acceleration in the last 2 years with offense culture, people getting deplatformed, outrage upon outrage. People forgot the latest outrage. It's a bit faster than even you expected.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw a word in here now. Trump. You know, why was Trump elected? It should have been impossible. And I know great chunks of the alternative media in America supported Trump because he was telling them what they wanted to hear, which is the biggest thing to watch. Because people who want your support aren't going to tell you what you don't want to hear, are they? And so he articulated what they wanted to hear. And having talked and written for years, the alternative media saying it doesn't matter who you vote for, the same people are controlled by the same people. Suddenly, all that was forgotten because, no, Trump's different. He's not. So this whole conspiracy to enslave humanity is a psychological game. What is it now, 7.7 billion or something people in the world? The number of people who are in full knowledge behind this manipulation, this agenda for this global Orwellian state is tiny.
How tiny?
Well, I mean, in the end, you if you got to the real core, you could get them in one room. That's how tiny, but then it goes out from that.
20, 30, 40, 50 people.
Yeah, and then it goes out from that, and as you go out, you know, you're meeting people who, the further you go out, know less and less and less about what they're actually serving.
So the technology CEOs of Facebook, Twitter, and Google don't necessarily know the grand plan, but they're close enough to the center.
The idea that Mark Zuckerberg runs Facebook is a joke. I mean, have you seen those staring eyes in absolute terror and that bewildered face when he's being questioned on Capitol Hill? I mean, the idea he's running a company like Facebook is ridiculous. Obviously, you know, there are other forces involved here, and that's where you get your coordination from. That's why Amazon and Facebook and Google and Twitter are all, and Apple are all censoring in unison because it's coordinated towards this goal of complete control of information. And so what you're seeing is free speech being targeted with more and more excuses to reach this situation of complete control. And this is really, really important because the next stage to look at is this. Where does human behavior come from? It comes from human perception. If I have a certain perception of an event or a situation, I'll behave towards it in a certain way. If I have a different perception of that situation, I'll behave towards it in a different way. So from perception comes behavior. Where does perception come from? It comes from information received. Whether it's a personal experience, which is a form of information, whether it's a newspaper, Facebook post or whatever, it's information received. Now, if you go deep in the shadows, beyond the politicians, you reach that level of this web where they understand, A, how reality works, they just don't want us to know, and B, how the mind works, how psychology works. And what we're looking at, because it's a few manipulating so many, the only way that you can achieve that is by controlling the perceptions of the many and by dividing and ruling the many as well. But you've got to control the perceptions of the many. And to do that, you control information. And what this process of the internet and these internet giants, near monopolies, that process can be simply explained And it can be explained why, up to relatively recently, the internet was censorship free. My God, not anymore. And why your Facebooks and your Googles and Twitters and stuff and Amazons were censorship free, and now suddenly they aren't. This is the process towards that goal of complete control of information, thus complete control of human perception, thus control of human behavior. This is the process. The internet was created originally by an organization called DARPA. DARPA is the technological development arm of the Pentagon. I would call DARPA evil, except it might sue me for defamation, or evil might sue me for defamation of character. It's a sinister organization for which we can thank for death rays and endless new ways of killing people in larger and larger numbers without damaging the furniture. Nice people. And they created the internet. Now, if they created the internet, it ain't good for humanity. Although it could be, and it has been. But ultimately, that's not the plan, or they would not have created it with military technology.
The internet has helped your message, and it has helped people
Absolutely.
come to your and awaken.
Yes, I'm going to go through that sequence now, how that came about. Now, the idea, and this is all connected to the smart technology and all the technologies that are coming in and artificial intelligence. They had to get the internet to a point where it was the central pillar of human society, the central pillar of where all our information came from, the central pillar of control. This is why we now have the Internet of Things, where billions of pieces of technology, everything from your fridge to your car to your telly, are connected to the internet. But to reach that point, it had to be what people wanted. If they'd have introduced a censored internet from the start, the internet wouldn't be now what it has become.
So they Trojan horsed it in.
They Trojan horsed it in, a very good phrase. So what they did was have a uncensored internet, and people going, "This is great, this is fantastic," and it became the center pillar of human society. And of course, in that initial period where they were selling it, people like me and so many other people had the platform uncensored to get information out there, and it was great. And I'm sure your DARPAs and all the connected organizations to DARPA were kind of spitting through their teeth, but they had to do it to get the internet to where they wanted. In the same way, when your Facebook started and your Googles and your Twitters and your Amazons with the books, they would not have reached this point they've reached of near monopoly if they'd have been censoring as they are now from the start. Instead, they did exactly the same thing. No censorship, say what you like, and people then became addicted to Facebook, and Google became by far the biggest search engine. Amazon has basically destroyed the independent book industry worldwide as it existed before. And so they reached this point of monopoly. And then came the point where, yes, the internet is the central pillar of human society, and it's now irreversible. And yes, these are near monopolies. And who you're going to go to if not them? Who are you going to go to get any numbers watching your videos, if not YouTube, owned by Google, of course, or Alphabet, its parent company? So now we're in a position of power and strength. Now the internet's going to become what it was always planned to be. Now Facebook and Google and Twitter and Amazon are now going to be what they always planned to be, which were gatekeepers on the information that people can see and hear. And because of that, human perception is increasingly being given a narrower and narrower band of information from which to form those perceptions. So perceptions are being manipulated. And I have a kind of very simple rule of thumb. When people say to me, well, what are the areas that are of the agenda? And I say, look at anything you cannot have an alternative opinion about. Look at any subject where to say something different from the official narrative, you're going to get abuse, you're going to get called a Nazi, an ist of some kind, and you're basically going to get shut down. They are the key areas of the agenda, or many key areas of the agenda. And see, this is the whole point. If I want you to believe something, or I want the public to believe something, and I know that what I'm saying is so utterly flawed in my justification of it, that if there was an open debate where all opinions, facts, and evidence could be freely available and discussed, I'm going to lose the debate. So what I want to happen is not going to happen because I'll lose the debate, because I won't be able to justify it in an open debate. What do? You don't have the debate. You shut it down. So
this is you making obvious that no one wants to debate you.
Yeah.
And they call you the ists.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what they do call you. Australia banned you recently,
Yep.
said you were anti-Semitist.
Yes, I know.
You've been called a racist.
Yeah.
How do you respond to these things, and why do they say these things, Dave?
Well, one of the, or two other reasons I was banned from Australia, having been given a visa last September, one minister, the immigration minister, overrode his own department 4 hours before my plane left in February to the ban. Two other things were my views on vaccines and my views on human-caused global warming. And that was a massive wake-up call for a lot of people in Australia.
They cited those as the reasons you were banned.
Yeah.
In addition.
That was a big wake-up call. Just before we go to the
Did that surprise you that you got banned 4 hours before you took a flight down there?
Not really, because I'd got the gist some weeks before that there was a campaign, basically by one person, to stop me speaking in Australia. The same person is now trying to get a Palestinian poet banned. You know, poets are dangerous, aren't they?
Is this political correctness?
Well, it's political correctness. But it's more than that. But just on that thing about, say, vaccines, what the Australian government is saying, and if you look at the vaccine thing, YouTube is now demonetized anti-vaccination videos. That's always a prelude to outright banning. Amazon started banning anti-vaccine books and videos as well.
Netflix banned an anti-vaccine movie.
Yeah. Now, we just come back to what I just said. If you can't win the debate, don't have it. Shut down that which is challenging your position. So here we have a situation in Australia where the pharmaceutical cartel, which makes billions out of vaccinations, can say what the hell they like, basically, to get people to vaccinate the kids and vaccinate themselves. They can advertise their wares on national television. I mean, American mainstream media television wouldn't exist without the drug adverts. But one guy, coming in to do a few talks in Australian cities, having a different version of that, has to be banned. Now, that is insane when you look at it. There was a lady called Sherry Tenpenny. She's a doctor in America who's anti-vaccine. She was banned from Australia for her views on vaccinations. So they know they can't win the debate to the extent that they're terrified of a bloke from the Isle of Wight going there for 3 weeks, talking a bit and leaving, when what is pressing the version that they want people to believe is unlimited. I mean, how incredible is that in terms of not being confident you can win the debate? They shouldn't be worried about me, but they are, because what they're claiming is unsupportable if you have a proper debate on it. And of course, I am called anti-Semitic which is a misnomer, by the way. It means anti-Arab, in fact, anti-Semitic, because Semite is basically a term for a group of languages in the Middle East, the overwhelmingly vast majority of which are Arabic languages. So even the term anti-Semitic is a misnomer, but because they want to silence me. And we can get into some interesting areas here, not least in what's been happening to the British Labour Party.
Right, we should talk about that. The Guardian did a quick description and said you claim that the Jewish people bankrolled Hitler, caused the 2008 global financial crisis, and staged the 9/11 terrorism attacks. That's why some of the reasons they call you an anti-Semite.
Yeah. I say the Jewish people. No, I don't. The Jewish people are a whole community, a whole vast spectrum of belief and perception. But what happens is this. There has been created what I call the anti-Semitism industry, which is a protection racket. And it's not a protection for Jewish people. It's a protection racket to protect the far-right government in Israel from legitimate criticism. And you can see very clearly that it's not about protecting Jewish people, because any Jewish person that criticizes Israel gets the abuse to a greater extent than non-Jewish people do. We've had a situation in recent times when Jewish people have been expelled from the Labour Party for being anti-Semitic. I mean, it's like, it's at the level of saying men and women are not biologically different. It's madness, because it's not to do with protecting Jewish people, clearly not. It's to do with protecting Israel from legitimate criticism. So this is how they work. And you're talking a tiny number of people in the Jewish community, what I call ultra-Zionists, the real extremists. The rest of the community are not involved in this at all. That's why when he says, they say he's saying the Jewish people, I'm not saying the Jewish people at all.
So you're criticizing the ultra-Zionists.
The ultra-Zionists,
right,
who have no desire to help Jewish people. They have a desire to help an agenda.
Which include the Rothschild family.
Oh yeah,
okay.
all that stuff.
Okay.
So, and people like George Soros, for instance, George Soros is a multi-billionaire financier who has a network called the Open Society Foundations that operate in more than 100 countries and are basically driving this regressive, political correct agenda and all that goes with it. And yet, and leaked documents, leaked emails have all shown this to be provable fact in countries like Ukraine and many others. But if you, as I do, expose George Soros for what he's doing, he has put so far $32 billion into this Open Society Foundation network. I mean, why is he doing that when you see how it works and what it's doing and what its goals are through what they call NGOs and stuff? So you expose what he's doing, not because he's Jewish, but because of what he's doing. What's the defense mechanism? You're only saying that because he's Jewish. No, I'm saying it because he's what he's doing. I don't care if he's outer Mongolian. I don't care if he's middle class American or middle class whatever. I'm interested in what he's doing. But the protection racket, because that's what it is, then kicks in and says, you're only saying it because he's Jewish. You can't say that, that's anti-Semitic. And this is how the protection racket works. So,
and this is happening in the Labour Party now as well.
Well, I mean, this was the situation. This protection racket had got such influence in the Liberal Democrats and in the Conservative Party, as it has in the Democrats and the Republicans in America, big time. Some people are now starting to point that out in America and getting massive flack for it. And most of the Labour Party was there too. The Blairite Labour Party, it won't have a word said against Israel, no matter how extreme its behavior is towards Palestinians and what have you. But there was a core around Jeremy Corbyn and that which supported Jeremy Corbyn, that was still willing to criticize Israel. And so the focus was turned on that. And you had this anti-Semitic hysteria, which was generated, the media supported it, but it was generated by groups that are part of this protection racket. And they were targeting people for saying the mildest stuff. And they introduced this new definition of anti-Semitism, which was classic protection racket. What is, let's put aside the fact that anti-Semitism is a misnomer term and look at a definition of it, a fair definition of it. It's hating or being discriminatory against Jewish people for being Jewish.
Right, which does happen today.
Of course it does. Not on the scale that's claimed, but it absolutely does. And it's reprehensible. Discriminating against anyone on the basis of that background, race, religion, whatever, is the same. But that simple definition didn't serve the protection racket. Why? Because it allowed the criticism of Israel and the extremes of ultra-Zionism. So they introduce a new one. And this new one is frankly ridiculous. And I'm not going to, bow down and say, oh, I mustn't say that. What will they say about me? I don't care what they say about me. It's ridiculous. And when you read it, what it's saying is basically, whatever they claim, this is what it's saying. Any criticism of someone who happens to be Jewish, for almost any reason, is anti-Semitic. Criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. Criticism of Zionism is anti-Semitic. You've had Emmanuel Macron coming out recently and saying criticism of Zionism is anti-Semitic. Zionism's a political philosophy. It's not anti-British to criticize the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. But what they've done is, and this is not Jewish people, this is the protection racket, which is a tiny number of very well-funded organizations, is they've expanded the definition to stop criticism of Israel. Now, what they wanted to do was to have the Labour Party accept this definition. And so they started the campaign of abuse against the Labour Party. Everything was anti-Semitic. Oh, they said they're anti-Semitic.
Completely unjustified, this campaign?
Well, in any group, you'll have some people who are discriminatory against this group or that group. Of course you will. But in terms of the scale they were claiming, it's insane. So what they forced the Labour Party got down on its knees eventually because its backbone went. And they've accepted this definition. So the abuse has got what they want. And now they're expelling people from the Labour Party, including Jewish people, on the basis of this new definition. I mean, how crazy is this? Where you get somebody, this is one example, who was born in Israel, Jewish, serves in the Israeli Defense Forces, took part, I think, in the 1982 war with Lebanon, and as a conscript, then stayed on and served in, I think it was PR for the Israeli Defense Forces, saw some of the extraordinarily horrific things that are done to Palestinians.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
Most people will never see this opportunity. Dubai luxury transformation projects have historically delivered 40 to 90% annual returns. That is incredible. These were once reserved only for insiders with access. I spent 15 years on Wall Street and I learned this. The biggest returns always go to the people who get the call first. Now, you finally can. We've just received a brand new project with major upside potential. Allocations move fast. Click the link, apply now, and speak to my team. This is your chance to see what others never will.